In El Salvador, homage was paid to the victims of the Mozote Massacre perpetrated by the army in 1981, where almost 1,000 people were killed. In Venezuela, citizens go to the polls on Sunday to elect over 15,000 justices of peace in communal districts throughout the country. In Gaza, injured people and dead bodies were transported to the Baptist hospital after overnight Israeli airstrikes targeted the Abu Iskandar area. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news, so stay with us. In Argentina, a country with a high poverty rate, a soup kitchen organized a holiday event for children from low-income households. The project was set in motion by the soup kitchen Los Chicos de la Villa, a community space in Lomas de Zamora, outskirts of Buenos Aires. The activity looked to stimulate a community that has over 66% of children under 14 living in low-income households. The neoliberal policies implemented by Javier Milei's government have pushed millions of Argentinians into poverty, and thousands depend on soup kitchens to survive.
This is the first time they get a present. I'm excited because I was never able to buy them presents. Next year, I start high school to give them a good future. I will finish my studies and pursue a career.
From an economy standpoint, there are more and more hungry people. You can see it in the streets.
In Bolivia, over 7.3 million citizens are called to the polls this Sunday to elect 19 judges to the country's high courts. The Supreme Electoral Court set up at least 5,597 voting centers throughout the nation, with over 33,000 polling stations. The voting day began at 8 a.m. local time and is expected to end at 4 p.m. Bolivians participate in the process to decide for the new magistrates of the corresponding judicial entities. At the same time, President Luis Arce exercised his right to vote in the city of La Paz, accompanied by some members of the executive cabinet. In El Salvador, homage was paid to the victims of the Mozote Massacre perpetrated by the army in 1981, where almost 1,000 people were killed. 43 years later, the victims' relatives continue to demand justice. Survivors and relatives of the 988 people executed, including 558 minors, commemorated the 43rd anniversary of what has been labeled as one of the worst tragedies in the history of Latin America. In addition, representatives of humanitarian organizations from El Mozote and the lawyers of the victims in the criminal proceedings against retired soldiers attended the ceremony.
This anniversary has motivated us and also the communities to maintain the slogan of justice now, to demand that this evidence be exposed, so that there may be a debate and ultimately a sentence in this case. It is inadmissible that it's been 43 years of impunity, with the government, the army, and the justice system protecting war criminals.
On Saturday, at least 2 people were killed as fierce winds from Cyclone Chido lashed French Indian Ocean territory of Mozote. Authorities warned of severe damage. 2 deaths have been confirmed so far in Petit Terre, the smaller of the 2 main islands of Mozote. The acting transport minister said the Bamdasi airport suffered major damage, especially to the control tower. Cyclone Chido is reported to be the most violent and destructive storm in the territory since 1934. On the other hand, acting Interior Minister Bruno Retailleau posted that 140 French troops and firefighters would be sent to the scene to help with the recovery efforts, doubling the deployment sent earlier in the week.
It is a truly unusual situation. There had not been such a climate event in Mayotte since 1934, which, as the Prime Minister said, included wind, with wind gusts up to 226 kilometers per hour, and then rain. And you know that makeshift homes over there sit on hillsides. And as rainwater ran downhill and the land became unstable, it obviously was a disaster. All makeshift homes have been completely destroyed. And then the third element was that powerful waves in some cases caused coastal flooding. So this climate event was absolutely tragic. The state, the agencies, the ministries are mobilizing.
While visiting the French island of Corsica, Pope Francis expressed his support for the people suffering the consequences of Cyclone Chido in Mayotte.
And we are praying for the victims of the cyclone that has hit the Mayotte archipelago in recent hours. I am spiritually close to all those affected by this tragedy.
On Sunday, a sand and dust storm hit southwestern Iran, resulting in the closure of schools and public buildings and the cancellation of flights due to poor visibility. A thick yellow fog shrouded the Iranian provinces of Khuzestan and Bushehr, where buildings were barely visible and residents had to protect themselves with face masks. As a result of the storm, school and public services were closed in southwest Iran and all flights were suspended until further notice. In addition, in the city of Abadan, in Khuzestan province, the air quality was considered hazardous, exceeding by more than 25 times the pollution indexes considered acceptable by the World Health Organization. Dust and sandstorms have long affected the region, but have become more intense and frequent in recent years, mainly due to climate change. Cyclone Chido made landfall in Mozambique, bringing strong winds after passing through islands in the southeastern Indian Ocean. According to local authorities, Cyclone Chido made landfall near Pemba in the province of Cape Delgado on the north coast of Mozambique. It brought strong winds and rains that also affected the province of Nampula. A preliminary report indicates that there was damage to buildings and power outages in several parts of the country. Cyclone Chido hit Mozambique after passing through the French department of Mayotte, where it left more than 14 people dead and material damage. The nearby islands of Comoros and Madagascar were also affected. And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. On Sunday, in Venezuela, for the first time, elections are being held to choose justices of peace in communal districts throughout the country. The Venezuelan National Electoral Council reported that 100% of the more than 4,000 voting centers in the country opened early in the morning. People 15 years old of age and older can vote for up to 3 candidates. Communal justices of peace will be mediators in matters such as family conflicts, neighborhood conflicts, among other situations. In addition, their functions include promoting conciliation, harmony, and preventing violence in the communities.
Eternal strength, we will always win, and we will push forward, Mr. President. Count on our community today, December 15th, and on January 10th. Trust that our community will be there, with our justices of peace, to continue fighting for our communities.
Well, today we are choosing our justices of peace, people who are going to represent us in the courts, in the prosecutor's office. Any problem that may arise in our communities, we will go to our justices of peace so that they may help us solve it in the communities. We have chosen honest men and women, who side with the people who are going to help us, and that should remain honest in everything they may do to defend us.
They would solve family conflicts and thus help clear up the courts a little.
The justices of the peace will be a very important figure, representing the law in your community. One would no longer have to go to the prosecutor's office. Now, we will be able to solve the problems within our communities.
This is something unprecedented and very important for our country. Justices of the peace come to fulfill a very important role given the present situation in the country. Why do I say it is important? Because conflicts from any standpoint must be mediated. And the work that justices of the peace will do in Venezuela will be essential to help strengthen community justice.
People in Gaza, injured people and dead bodies were transported to Al-Ali Arab Hospital, also known as the Baptist Hospital, after overnight Israeli strikes targeted the Abu Iskandar area. Gaza Civil Defense Agency reported Sunday that overnight Israeli strikes across the Palestinian territory killed at least 18 people, including 4 displaced individuals who had sought refuge in a tent. In this sense, rescuers worked through the night, recovering the 18 bodies, while dozens more were injured in the ongoing Israeli aggression across Gaza. In addition, another 4 were killed and 8 injured when an Israeli missile struck a tent sheltering dozens of displaced people in their El Bala city in central Gaza.
A large number of martyrs are still under the rubble in a 3-story house belonging to the Al-Aruki family in the Abu Iskandar area. Civil defense crews are still working to retrieve the martyrs from under the rubble, but the crews are unable to do so due to the lack of capabilities available to the civil defense and medical crews.
This Saturday, thousands of Israeli Turks took to the streets, demanding an agreement for the release of hostages held in Gaza. Demonstrators in the city of Jerusalem carried 100 symbolic coffins in front of the residence of the Israel President Isaac Herzog. In the midst of the demonstration, Israeli police forces arrested 4 people. Negotiations for the exchange of prisoners between the Palestinian Islamic Resistance Movement Hamas and Israel have so far failed due to the systematic blockade by the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
It is unthinkable that political considerations are preventing us from reuniting with our loved ones and keeping our hostages from their freedom. The Israeli public wants the hostages home.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Libya's National Oil Corporation has declared force majeure after Sawija refinery's reservoirs were seriously damaged as a result of ongoing clashes between armed groups. Situated in the west of the country, the refinery, which is key to Libya's energy needs and economy, processes crude oil from the Sahara oil fields, one of the largest of the country, which produces diesel, gasoline, jet fuel, and LPG, essential for domestic fuel supply. Normally, the refinery produces over 100,000 barrels of crude oil per day. Any disruption on its functioning is a direct assault to Libya's economy and finances. On Sunday, Pope Francis arrived on the French island of Corsica for a one-day visit focusing on the Mediterranean. The visit will last 9 hours and will include a 40-minute meeting with the French President Emmanuel Macron. The Pope attended the closing of the event, Popular Religiosity in the Mediterranean, and delivered a speech focusing on migration, regional conflicts, and the climate crisis. This is the first time a Pope visits the island, which Genoa ceded to France in 1768, and which has a strong nationalist movement that seeks independence. The Russian emergency minister reported that 2 fuel-carrying ships are currently sinking off the coast of the Black Sea. The Russian tanker Volga-Neft 212, carrying over 4 tons of fuel oil, is sinking in the Kerch Strait. Due to a heavy storm, the ship broke in half, the bow was torn off, and the crew was forced to take shelter in the stern. The Ministry of Emergencies reported that a helicopter with rescuers and a rescue tow were dispatched to the scene, saving 13 crew members out of the 14 that were on board. Subsequently, another vessel was damaged in the same area, the Volga-Neft 239. There were 14 people on board of the vessel, which was also carrying over 4 tons of fuel oil. The first vessel is reported to have run aground, while the second one is drifting towards Taman. Due to the incident, oil products have been spilled all over the area. The prestigious International School of Film and Television of San Antonio de los Baños, Cuba, celebrates on Sunday the 38th anniversary of its foundation. The school was established on December 15, 1986 by the Committee of Filmmakers of Latin America as a branch of the Foundation of the New Latin American Cinema. Since then, each year it receives around 330 teachers and film specialists from various regions. Its academic program includes regular course modalities, international workshops, and master's degrees, from which 1,094 professionals from 64 countries have graduated. The educational institution exhibits significant results, and it is worth highlighting that over 400 students and graduates from this school have won awards at important international film festivals such as the Oscars, Goya, and Cannes. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net, and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.